Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Stream live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Eric Ellis and Tommy Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis, and I'm the president and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation. And I'm joined this morning by my good friend and brother,
Tommy Lewis, president and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Tommy, man. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Eric. I'm in the hotel lobby / ballroom area,
Right.
In Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Which hotel there?
Yeah. So, Eric, we absolutely have to have an organization join us as a part of our guests, right?
Yeah.
Yesterday, I had a very blessed experience of meeting the two leaders, the president and the principal of the 7 p.m. group. I met with Vincel Anthony and Carl Brasley, who run the 7 p.m. group. And they're basically an organization, a minority-owned organization that focuses on the construction sector, but they do workforce, they do DEI consulting, they have some project management and also sourcing. Absolutely phenomenal.
Okay.
Doing work throughout the country. They're headquartered in Louisville, but I will tell you that when we have them, these brothers on the show, they remind me of us.
Okay.
And they're trying to say, hey, how might we as progressive minority-owned businesses really leverage our unique skill sets, competencies, and services to literally become a conglomerate?
Right.
So I spent time with them yesterday talking about Make It Plain, talking about Integrity Development Corporation and your work, and saying, hey, Eric Ellis and myself, we're locking step.
Absolutely.
Right? So this may be another opportunity to continue to increase capacity, scale, and service throughout the United States. We're coming, Eric. We're coming.
I love that, man. I love that. You and I, Lydia, our community is a reason to be optimistic about the future, Tommy. And that's the only way. I refuse to be discouraged. I was just in Philadelphia last week speaking at a conference for future food leader executives. And a young lady came up to me, man, just in tears, saying that her company's walking away from DEI. And I was just encouraging her that the last word has not been spoken on this, Tommy, that we might pivot, we might adjust, we might move out of the way of a freight train that's coming down, but we will not lose. And our message and this work is essential, and it's the only pathway to the future, Tommy. And the more damage that is being created right now, as you said, you reminded me the last time, the world is on fire. You and I are firefighters, man, and we're delighted to be doing the work we do.
Yeah, Eric, the words may change, but the work continues.
Exactly. Well, we've got a unique show today for our community. We want to let you know, Tommy Lewis and I are here live with you, but we have a pre-recorded interview that I did with Steve Hightower and with Jeff Berding. Steve Hightower is an African-American CEO of a billion-dollar corporation, Hightower Petroleum. Jeff Berding is the co-CEO of FC Cincinnati, the new soccer team here in Cincinnati. Next week, Tommy, as you know, I've been invited along with Vince Brown to facilitate a master class for the top leaders in our community. And so on Tuesday, and I want to ask the community just to keep that event in prayer, in your prayers, we will be facilitating a master class called Inclusion Unlocks Potential. And it really is kind of shocking that at this moment in time that Steve Hightower has been able to convince the chamber that this is the conversation that we need to be having. So we're excited and looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm excited for you, Eric. I'm excited for not only the Cincinnati area, but all of those companies that do business in the local market, regional market, and nationally. So we do understand that it only takes a relationship to make a significant impact. And today we have two individuals who are two significant players in their respective spaces, and their work, it resonates throughout the globe. Right?
Absolutely.
One from fuel, petroleum, right? And what that looks like globally. And then the other is professional athletics,
Right.
what that looks like on a global scale. I do want to remind our community, as always, to like and subscribe. We need those likes and subscribes, and hit the bell to remind you of our time together. But so the more you hit that on Facebook and YouTube, the more we surface to the top in the minds of folks, so they have a reminder of our diversity conversations.
Absolutely. So without any further ado, I think we're going to bring that interview up for you, our community. I'll be here. Make your comments. We'll still bring those forward. And then we may have a couple of minutes at the end. Tommy is on location, so he may not be back with us at the end, but we'll come back and say some closing words. So with that, excited today to have two excellent ambassadors for the city of Cincinnati, two CEOs that are leaders in our community, Steve Hightower and Jeff Berding, to be our guest on Diversity Conversations. And I'd love to start by just having you all introduce yourselves to our community. Steve, if we could start with you, just kind of tell us a little bit about your background and maybe who are the people and experiences that have made you who you are. And then Jeff, we'll have you do the same thing.
Sure. Well, thank you very much, Eric. I'm from Middletown, Ohio. I always say that I sleep in Middletown, but I work just about everywhere in the world. And the thing about, I guess, starting and growing up in business, having a perspective of, how to service your clients, how to maintain a customer, and just keep your word and have a level of, I guess, integrity in order to be able to grow. It particularly, regardless what the environment is, if you take care of your customer, then you'll be taken care of. And that's how I believe. That's how we operate on a daily basis within our company. And I think that's what's going to keep me growing from this day forward.
Who are some of the people and experiences, Steve, that have kind of made you who you are?
Well, I started as a child, basically in a family business. And by the time I was 16, I was actually running crews in our family's janitorial business. My father was always my model. That's who I wanted to be like. I'd never seen anyone work 24 hours a day consistently, working at Armco and then his own business. So at some point in time when I was 18 years old, I had a crossroads to wanted to actually be a salesperson at Armco Steel. But the guy kind of patted me on the head and said, I can go into the factory or I go back to school, but I couldn't be a salesperson at that time. And so I decided that if I went into the plant at Armco, I would get a watch and possibly a pension in 30 years. But I might be better off if I went on and did my own business for 30 years. And I guess I was right at age 18, and I never looked back and never got a job. So don't know no better.
Right. Well, Steve, thank you, man. We've been friends for a long time, and certainly I've been proud of the work that you've done in this community. Jeff, I was just reading about you that you're an alum, I think, of Miami University, and you're going to be the keynote speaker there. So I saw that and thought that was awesome, and they were excited about you coming to speak at the commencement. And so if you would just kind of share a little bit about you, your background, and who are the people and experiences that have made you who you are.
Sure. So I'm Jeff Berding, and I grew up here in Cincinnati in Westwood, and grew up in a large Catholic family. I'm one of 10 kids, and I'm the first Berding to graduate from college. I went to Miami University for my undergrad, and was political science and Soviet studies, Russian language. Thought I was going to be a diplomat.
Okay.
And when I graduated, I started getting involved in politics. and thought maybe I would run for governor someday or U.S. senator someday, but ultimately got involved in professional sports in the effort to keep the Reds and Bengals in Cincinnati, and was asked to run the campaign that the voters approved that led to the development of the two stadiums. And I then was hired to work for the Bengals for almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Served six years on Cincinnati City Council. While I was a full-time executive of the Bengals, I also was trying to serve the community. I tried to be the voice of the business community on council in terms of economic growth and creating an environment where jobs and investment and opportunity can flourish. But after 6 years of being on city council, I decided I wanted to trade city hall politics for youth soccer politics.
Okay.
And became the president of my kids' youth club.
Oh.
And we did a merger and became one of the two biggest clubs. And then ultimately, I was inspired to write a business plan to create FC Cincinnati and to be the third major league team here in town, and to try to be the three key values were to be a winning team, a family-friendly, inclusive club, and a franchise that gives back and makes the community better. And I felt like if we ran the team with those three values at our core, we could be immediately relevant and very successful. That the people in this city were looking for a pro team that did things a little differently. And if we did things that aligned with those values, we could be very successful. And the data said that this town would support Major League Soccer. And so Steve was one of our very first investors. And we launched as a minor league team playing at Nippert Stadium. Yeah. After 3 years of enormous success, we went into Major League Soccer, ultimately built our stadium in the West End. And we're proud neighbors in everything we do to be catalysts for improving the lives of people in the West End. They've been our biggest fans, our biggest supporters. We signed a community benefits agreement, the first of its kind, have outperformed every single metric. And at the same time, the commitment to winning a little over 3 years ago, we hired a new sporting director and a head coach. And over the last 3 seasons, we're the second winningest team in all of Major League Soccer, second only to LAFC. And we won our first trophy, the Supporter Shield, which was the regular season champion in 2023. So we're now working to be more of an international club. We have our real estate development that we're doing in the West End with the support of people in the West End. And I feel like I have a very blessed life. I've had a lot of wonderful mentors that have helped pave the way to teach. I feel like I'm trying to model the gifts that they gave me, and also that tradition of giving back in the same vein that you have we have such gratitude for. The Miami University commencement speaker, of course, is a great honor, and I'm very proud to return to my undergrad alma mater and have the opportunity.
Steve, Jeff, in your wildest imagination, could you ever have seen the kind of success that you all have experienced here?
Well, you have to want to become successful. And I've always wanted to be the boss, always wanted to be large as a business. So you don't just happen to grow. You have to actually have that desire, that burning desire inside you to become more than what you are today. And with that is that vision is something that only you can see. Not everybody can see your vision. And to be able to one by one bring talent to the table around you to help make that vision become true is something that it takes time, it takes effort. And I look 44 years later from the time that I started Hightower's Petroleum Company, I'm now in every state in the United States. I do like 200 plus Fortune 100, Fortune 500, Fortune 5 companies. I don't do federal work at all. I have an office in South Africa, do work in Nigeria. I have an office in Rome, Italy. And it's just the fact that you have to know that you can. And to know that you can, then you have to try. And that is the beginning of being able to grow and get outside of your comfort zone of, say, Middletown, Ohio, or the greater Cincinnati area. Because again, this is just a very small a pin in the map, and the world is your playground. And I've always said that if you know how to do business, somebody in this world will do business with you, but they may not come here to seek you. You may have to go seek them. And that's what I've always been able to do, is get up and go, network, have relationships in the industries that I pursue, and those sort of things that continue to make me successful today.
Jeff, I'm going to ask you this. I remember seeing you on TV pitching the idea of FC Cincinnati, and it's just amazing what that has become. As I look at, I love to golf, and as I look at what Tiger Woods and Rory are trying to do with that new sort of indoor simulator golf, I think they're going to struggle with that. I love golf, and yet that, you know, with all the power behind it, may not succeed. What allowed you to sort of envision that FC Cincinnati could really be successful in this community?
Well, I agree with Steve that at a certain point, you have to have that belief, the ambition, the vision, and the persistence. You know, Calvin Coolidge, he has this great quote. He says, "Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence." He said, "Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts.
Right.
Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent." So I don't think I have anything particularly special other than I can be a dog when I'm going after that bone. When I have that idea that I believe in, I do have belief in myself that I will, at that point, do whatever it takes within my value system. I will do whatever. I will put in the work. I will put in the time in to sell my stadium ambition in the West End. I went door to door knocking on people's doors with some leaders in the West End to talk to people and to assure them that our vision was not to make their lives worse.
Yes.
And that I was willing to put it in writing in a legally binding document because they had had nothing but betrayal and broken promises.
That's right, Jeff.
So I was willing that you can trust me, but not just because I'm saying trust me. I'm willing to put it in a legally enforceable document. You can sue me. And at the end of the day, David Mann told me that Jeff, he was the vice mayor, former congressman, former mayor, said, "You need to do it because I know you'll do what you promised, but they have no reason to trust you because they don't know you like I know you."
That's right.
And so I think for me, at somewhat of an early age, the start of the question, Eric, was, could you have imagined? And the answer is, of course not. I grew up in Westwood. We didn't have much money. We played sports year round. Like, that was what we did. We couldn't afford to go to Reds games. I got straight A's because I wanted tickets to Reds games.
Right.
So, but at some level, coaches and teachers saw something in me that I never would have seen in myself. And they gave me that belief. And then I went to St. X High School because I was told, you need to go there. That's where the smart kids go. That's where and I didn't know that. Right. My dad went to Roger Bacon.
Right.
So, but you need to go. My buddies all went to LaSalle. You need to go to St. X. And so at some level, people put me on a path that I never would have seen. But at some point at Miami University, I decided to run for student government, campus-wide election. And I went around talking. I felt comfortable to talk to people of, no connection other than we're here at Miami and let's talk about what can make the campus better. And I got elected. And at some point I found my leadership voice and a belief in myself that other people had in me before I had it in myself. But it wasn't until college where I really started to understand what was inside of me and then what it was going to take. And that persistence became a really key part. And then the mentoring. And that's a part of why I'm interested in this program, because the mentoring became very fundamental to me being in a position to be an impactful leader in this community?
Well, I'll tell you this, that it is literally screaming through the screen why you all are friends. Because I see you as the yin and yang. I mean, your passion is matched. Your belief that we can do great things is impressive, encouraging, inspiring. And I think that it's so critical that in the times that we're living in, that you all are working together to try to bring this community together. Jeff, I love what you're saying about your willingness to put in writing your commitments and your convictions, because you will stand behind what you say. Steve, you invited me as president and CEO of Integrity Development. We're a management consulting firm that's been specializing in people-centered workplaces, inclusive workplaces for over 3 decades. Steve, you invited myself and Vince Brown to join together to provide a summit, if you will, a master class on inclusion unlocks potential for chamber leaders in the CBC and CRBC. And so if you all wouldn't mind talking about why you believe that that's an important conversation for us to have with chamber leaders in this time in our city, our state, and our country.
Well, first of all, when we thought about this whole idea, it was long before election,
Right.
long before a lot of the dynamics that we're looking at right now and facing as it relates to the subject matter. But at the end of the day, I have been the type of individual that have busted through a lot of glass windows that never ever existed in my community. As I look around, and I just left a board meeting, API, and API is the American Petroleum Institute, and the board of directors on the API board is the president of Exxon, Chevron, Shell, Marathon, Hess, about 40 different CEOs around the table. And as an African American, the only one who sits at that particular table as a board member. And we have the opportunity right now to do something that's different. And because again, most people look at an African American in this environment and say that it's the problem, and that only having government business is how you're here today. Somebody had to give you something.
Right.
I earned my way.
Right.
Nobody gave me nothing. And very fortunately for me, I never wanted federal business because very in early ages in 1978, I became a minority business because of something that was passed by Nixon in the Small Business Administration. Before that, I was just a business. And after that, subsequent state of Ohio, I became an MBE and an SDBE and so many different acronyms that made no difference to my customer because my customer wanted me to perform. And once you understand that, it's not the letters or what people call you, it's what you answer to. And when you know who you are and you know the value of who you are, that's how you sit at the table with the CBC, the CRBC, the API, Sigma, all of these organizations. I really typically sit alone. And no other reason than I work hard. I have integrity a part of my DNA. My organization operates on a daily basis, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have to add value, not just to our customers, but we add value to our suppliers. We make our suppliers money. No way we're going to be delivering in every state in these United States 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and somebody's not making money off of us.
Right.
So as long as people can make money off of Hightower Petroleum and we can save money to our customers across the country, then we have value. And as long as you have value, they don't care about what you look like. Okay, it's what's in their bottom line that you're affecting. And that's where I look at. What am I bringing in terms of value that regardless what do you want to call me, you're going to call me for that next order.
So you're from the school, Steve, that that money is not white or black, it's green. And that's what people ultimately, in many ways, will respond to. Jeff, I'm going to come back to the question of why do you think this is an important conversation, inclusion, unlocking potential? Why is that an important conversation for chamber business leaders to be having in this environment and at this time?
Well, it's on a number of fronts. I think based on what's going on in government, it isn't going to be a government-driven exercise.
Right.
It's going to lead to business leaders deciding on their own what are their values, and I think that we can talk about. There's all this conversation about DEI. DEI. What's DEI? Okay, well, diversity, right? Diversity.
Right.
What is the opposite of diversity? Uniformity.
That's right.
Inclusion. What is the opposite of inclusion? Exclusion.
Right.
And what is the opposite of equity? Inequity.
Right.
Inequity.
Right.
Fundamentally, what DEI is about is fairness.
That's right.
Fairness. And I would offer that businesses are smarter, and therefore smarter businesses will do better when you don't have uniformity. You want a diversity of views. You want to be challenged. You want to have people who are identifying other experiences and other approaches based on their life history. And in some cases, that's because where they worked, but in other times, it's the world in which they live, and they bring unique thoughts. And so there is a strength in diversity and a weakness in uniformity. Okay. Then you have inclusion. Inclusion is business leaders. We want to be inclusive. We want as broad of a customer base, a broad of support system as we can find. We don't want to be exclusive.
That's right.
We don't want to be exclusive. Okay. And then inequity. I think that's not where my values are, to be inequitable. I want people to say that the way we conduct ourselves is equitable. It is equitable. And I think that some people would agree with that, but they would say, yeah, but when you speak of that, you're looking back. You're looking back, and you are trying to have people today solve for the problems of that. But we have to have an honest conversation.
Right.
Redlining existed. And you would say, okay, so it did. Yes. But there are families, most of the wealth that people have is in their home. And there was systematic redlining that in a time of a generation and more ago, where people were not able to buy homes in certain neighborhoods and therefore did not build up the appreciated wealth from their home, from home ownership. Maybe couldn't even get a home loan, period. And so they are renters, and so therefore they have missed out. And I think if you think about what is equitable versus what is inequitable, you would acknowledge, yeah, that's pretty unfair. So having a conversation about what we can do today to be the better versions of ourselves, to be a better society, and to have values around fairness, right. I think that's a good conversation. Right. The other thing I would say is, and I said this earlier, none of us got where we are by ourselves.
That's right.
None of us did.
Yeah, that's exactly
right. We had people help us along the way, mentor us, give us opportunities. And I do think, to be fair, I can acknowledge, and I think we should acknowledge, that at some level, people choose people in power, people in positions of authority, maybe see something in someone that reminds them of themselves.
Right.
Okay. And that someone gave them the same opportunity.
That's right.
And now they are paying it forward by giving someone else. But frequently, and I think it's just human nature, that you tend to gravitate towards someone who maybe reminds you of yourself.
That's right.
And therefore you want to pay it forward.
Right.
And I would think that, again, if we think about inclusion, not exclusive, but inclusive, that we can think about, we want to give opportunities not just to the people who remind us of ourselves,
That's
but
right.
people who have different experiences, who have had different challenges. And maybe that is a more meaningful hand out to help mentor someone in a way that would be extraordinarily meaningful. And at the end of the day, helps us change and create a more fair and inclusive business community, economic system, because we all had help to get where we are. The last thing I would say is I think young people like to support companies whose values match their own.
That's exactly right.
Young consumers are looking at the values of companies, and whether it's on issues of climate change or inclusion, they're measuring us in what our values are as companies. And if they see that we are mentoring, that we are inclusive, that we want to be equitable, then I think young people are more inclined to support us as consumers, because consumers have choices. And I think you want to show that you are trying to approach the way you run your business in a way that aligns with their values.
I love that, Jeff. I tell you what, we might be able to just on April 1st, just run back this tape and just, I mean, you have got such power and passion. I'm reminded of one of my clients today is Louisville Water. And there's a young woman there that is neurodivergent. She serves on our core council. So we don't call it a diversity council. We call it core council: culture, ownership, respect, and engagement. And I just was moved by, we asked her to speak to the entire workforce on, sort of being neurodivergent. And she said for the first time in her life, she felt to the workplace and take full advantage of her talent, skill, and ability, even though it comes to a different package. So I love what you're saying in terms of making sure that we're opening up that aperture so that we can take advantage of all the different talent, skills, and abilities that come to us.
So for me, my Catholic faith and my Jesuit tradition at St. X High School, I went to MBA at Xavier, and fundamental to that is that we're all creatures of God.
That's
God
what
created us all, and
Yeah.
God blessed us all to have
Right.
different talents.
That's right.
We have different experiences as we grow up in the world. We also have different talents. God's blessed us with those talents. And so to try to find a way to recognize the talents that may be very different that someone else has is the best of humanity. I believe it's what Jesus would want us to do, is to recognize the gifts that these other people who may be very different than us, what their gifts are, and to try to find a way to incorporate their gifts into society. And maybe with a level of inclusive opportunity, inclusive mindset, but also with a degree of empathy and humanity to care for our fellow human beings in a way that we may not understand their experience, but we come at it in a way where we want to be decent to one another, that we want to be good neighbors, right? And some of us who are in a position of leadership can be more than just being good leaders and good neighbors. We can actually provide opportunity in a way that I believe is good for business. Because when our community is doing well, that's a rising tide that helps our business. When consumers have more money in their pockets, they're better able to buy the things I'm selling, tickets to FC Cincinnati, what have you. So we need to be that rising tide. And some of us, like Steve Hightower, we're in a position to help steer the ship.
That's exactly right. Well,
and we should be spirited towards fairness.
Right. Go ahead, Steve.
Let me hop on top of a few things that Jeff said. First of all, our family was that family in Middletown that crossed the red line. We were the first to have to deal with security at night, with armed guards, people running through your yards, and people wanting to buy you out before you even got into the home. And then secondly, 2 or 3 years after 1968, when we bought that first home, trying to buy a home in a better neighborhood, even could not buy it because in the deeds you were still not allowed to sell to blacks or Jews in that particular street. And we actually had to have another realtor buy the lot for my father, okay, and then sell it to my father for us to even live where my father ended up building a home, which was right across the street from the president of Middletown Works at Armco Steel. And my father had the vision to say, I want to build a black house in front of the president of in this particular neighborhood. And we came through a time where we just had to be persistent. But the one thing that my father always taught us how to do was to be respectful and to be prompt and to be consistent, with whatever it is that you do. And so as I began to grow my business is very diverse. I couldn't have just all African Americans in my business. It would not do me well as a business that's global to be just 100% monolithic in terms of who I had in my organization. So I have Indians, Asian Indians, I have whites, I have Africans, I have people from different cultures in different countries, Italians. And all of that has done was allowed me to broaden my outreach and ability to communicate in areas that I may not have been as effective. Right. So that diversity actually made me broader and brought things into the organization that I probably could not do myself. And as I look at, the team, FC Cincinnati, we, as most African Americans in my age group, and it's not exclusive, we play baseball, basketball, and football. We do not play soccer. And so we don't even know the game of soccer. Okay. Me and Jeff, we started the soccer team before I even saw my first soccer game. Okay? That wasn't at Smith Park here in Middletown. But you take that diversity that they have put into their team from all over the world. That's why they're a championship, because they utilize the talents. They did not say, I have to be monolithic and we're going to have an all white team. Because that's what we need in order to be in Cincinnati. No, they went all over the world and brought from South America to Africa to Italy to London. They brought a diverse to become great. And that's what we've done within our organization. You cannot become great being monolithic. And that is the value of diversity, and makes it that you can actually see the return on your investment. Okay. And many people still have not gotten over that hump because they live in a world that's very exclusive of a whole lot of the rest of the society, other than what they see every day in their family, their neighborhood that they live in, and where they go to work. It all is the same level of comfort, and they get stuck there, but they don't see expansion, by having other ideas, other cultures, and what they're able to bring that you don't even have and possibly even couldn't do.
Let me jump in here and say that I know that we are preparing for this event with chamber leaders, but I would suggest to you, the two of you, that this needs to be part of a broader conversation. Right now, there's so much focus on divisions and people fighting over political differences and the like, that I think that this kind of conversation is what's needed in this community, in the state, in this country, and the world. That you all's passion around just fundamentally trying to do the right thing has become silent almost. And Jeff, I want to ask you, what do you say to people that are afraid in this time to step forward? I'll tell you, I understand that. And I honestly believe that people have to do what's in the best interest of their business. And if I find some that say, hey, we want to kind of, we're concerned about our exterior focusing message, but we want to keep with our values and continue doing this work, but we're afraid. What do you say to people that may be fearful at this time around DEI and doing these kind of things?
Well, it's obviously an enormously important question. And I want to be fair, it's not an easy answer, and people are going to come to their own conclusions.
That's right.
In professional sports, we want to be building bridges, not walls. And when all the things out there that divide us, our passion for our community, our passion for our sports teams, the experience, the thrill that fans will enjoy in the stadium to see these incredible athletic performances, those are unifying. When you're hugging
Yes,
and high
they
fiving
are.
after a thrilling win,
They
no one's
absolutely
saying,
are.
where do you go to church? Who you love? What part of town? We're just experiencing that as humans and the human experience, shared experience. So I think that that's, for us, critical to understand. We're trying to bring people together, not divide.
Right.
However, I think you also have to acknowledge what is going on.
That's right.
When the in the Pentagon, they're removing all the pictures of Colin Powell and all the Navajo code talkers. Like, they're literally removing the pictures of anyone who's not white, a white man. Like, you could say that is exclusive, and you could say that is inconsistent with what we believe to be the values of our country.
That's right.
But I also understand people are being like, I want to keep my head down because these guys in charge, they don't have any problem shooting at you.
Nope.
And as business owners, and we have shareholders, and we have customers, and we and partners, we have to be right by them. And you don't want to take all this incoming from the administration. I want to be fair. It's a balancing act. For me,
I agree with that.
I'm not trying to pick political battles.
No,
because I don't exist. Our company does not exist in politics.
Right.
But we do exist within this community.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
we do have the values that we think are important for our community, and what we're trying to create. I'll give an example. Look at Atlanta. Atlanta is an economic powerhouse of a city. And Atlanta, a long time ago, decided that they thought a diverse community and a community rooted in inclusivity and equity would lift that community up.
That's right.
And they made it a mantra of what Atlanta was going to be about. Too busy to hate. Man, we're here to build and to grow where people can make money, and we're going to be inclusive. And look what Atlanta has become today.
That's exactly.
I would offer Cincinnati didn't do it as well by any means.
Right.
And Cincinnati is now a much smaller city than Atlanta.
Right.
So if we think that the values that we hold dear and that we're going to talk about at this summit are critical to economic growth of our region,
that's right,
then we can speak favorably of those values and those efforts without necessarily being critical of the administration and getting into a political conversation.
That's exactly right. And I even find that when I looked at the executive order that was supposed to be the one to take down DEI, when I saw that the title of it was Ending Illegal Discrimination, I said, oh my God, thank you, Mr. President. I can work with that. In other words, what we have to try to avoid is otherizing or stereotyping anything, including people that are governmental workers. We don't want to otherize them or, describe them all as being waste, fraud, and abuse. We don't want to look at DEI and sort of broad brush or stereotype it as being this crazy thing. I think you have the right, the responsibility to scrutinize every single initiative. And those that are doing the right thing, you want to support them. And those that are off base or harming people, I don't think it's a problem to criticize those and take those down.
Agreed.
And so, Steve, let me ask you all just last question. I didn't know we would blow through this time like this. What do you want people to walk away from this event? What does it look like? What does success look like for you? What do you want them to take away from the discussion?
I'd like for them to be able to see that inclusiveness means more, not less. That we're not taking something from someone, we're bringing value to add to your pot, not to take something from your pot. And whether you're Black, white, Asian, or whatever, there's good people and there's bad people. There's people that have value and people that brings absolutely no value. And you have to be able to distinguish that regardless of their color, race, or creed. And understanding that just because a color of my skin does not equate to what's in my brain and my mind and my heart. And those are the things that, once we can get past that and understand that the possibilities are greater than the impossibilities, that even impossible, then that's where we need to be able to leave this conversation with something on a positive and not a negative, and something that's expansive and not retractive,
Right.
but something that will be good for our community at large. And I remember Douglas Turner Ward was a playwright, and when I was at Wright State University, I was the director of this play, and it was called A Day of Absence. And it was a day where all the Black people left the city, okay, and nowhere to be found. And all of a sudden, things that were taken for granted was no longer available. And, I look at, the images of Middletown, and our vice president did a movie of Middletown. And I look back and say it was a day of absence because I saw no one that looked like me in that movie, period. But that's not the case. And so what we'd like to be able to, from my heart, is say that I would like to bring you value. I don't stand here with my hand out asking for a handout or give me something because I'm Black. That is the worst possible thing that anyone could, or insult that they could do to my business, and say, I've got business because I'm Black. Right. Because we work our butts off 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and all over the world, keeping people lights on, keeping people moving in transportation. Energy is a very, very basic need in so many different areas. And then the work that our people, the 60 people that in my office, what we do every day around the world for people, to even be thought of as just a minority company is an insult to the people in my organization that works their butt off and do a hell of a job for a lot of customers every day.
Jeff, we'll give you the final word on this. I'll tell you that I could take clips out of this from both of you. You've both been amazingly inspirational and passionate in your beliefs. Jeff, what's your hope for people that attend this masterclass, this summit? What is it that you'd like them to most walk away with?
Well, I'd like to think that business leaders have a growth mindset. A growth mindset, which means having curiosity to learn. And with learning comes self-improvement. With heightened awareness spurs a curiosity about maybe that there's things that I would like to do with this new knowledge. And so a part of it, of course, is learning. I think there's things that many of us just don't know. And so I hope that a part of the session is going to be educational about learning. We learn from history. And I think better because we're smarter and therefore more effective. And then a little bit of an understanding of, with that knowledge, how do we be the better versions of ourselves? How do we want to run our companies with this new knowledge and awareness of opportunities that could lead to a better, not only business and returns for our investors, but also for a better city? And I think Atlanta is such an inspirational example here, where, as Steve said, this is about business. This is about capitalism. This is about growing our markets, about growing our profitability. But maybe if we don't have that awareness and we don't have that history, we maybe aren't as smart as we could be. And maybe we're not as inspired as we will be with with these learnings. And so I'm certainly hopeful of coming out. We'll have that a little bit of that history and education and awareness of what we can do about it, and an inspiration and determination to therefore do something to make this a better community and our companies better and more profitable.
Wow.
Yeah, and let me say, Eric, I recommended yourself and Vincent Brown because of your 30 to 40 years experience in this space. We need experts. We don't need people who are thinking or coming up with new and fresh, mindsets as to what is possible. But we need to understand what is real. And the fact that you work with organizations, corporations, global corporations all over the world, over a long period of time, you're seeing something right now, real time, that you have to pivot and begin to look at this and present this in a way that's not instructive or not finger pointing or not trying to down somebody, but trying to bring them into what's possible and where the positiveness is in this whole conversation. And this, more than anything, is time to kind of reset the mindset that is going down, or that has been for the last maybe 30, 40 years. We are going to reset, and we really need pros to come to the table and to be able to deliver that conversation in a way that's not offensive, in a way that's not threatening, but a way that I can walk away and say, I could use some of that. And that's my objective right now, is to bring that type of outcome to this city and to the business people of the city.
Right. Well, I want to thank both of you for this conversation. So that was a powerful interview. As you can see, it really was valuable to talk about the power, the value of inclusion, not only to us individually, not only within our organizations that we lead, but also within our city and our broader community. And so we had Steve Hightower, the CEO of Hightower Petroleum Solutions, and we had Jeff Berding, the co-CEO of FC Cincinnati. Steve Hightower is here with us, and so I'd love to bring him to the stage, to our community. Steve, how are you, my friend?
Very good, Eric. How are you today?
Outstanding, man. Outstanding. I appreciate you. That was an outstanding interview, and people all over the city, around the state, around the world need to hear that message. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, Eric, first of all, I look forward to the training that we're going to do on Monday. And it's not so much that nobody could recognize what it is that you're going to bring. It's going to be how you bring it. And at a time like this, people need to have a real quality, in-depth conversation that can hit their spirit and their hearts, and not just sit on their minds as they leave that room. And I've known you for many, many years. I know you've come into our organization and you coached our people before. I know your effectiveness. I know that your talent is well beyond paper thin. It goes very, very deep in the 30, 40 years that you've been doing this type of work. And right now, they need you more than ever. And I think that this is the best time that we could actually have this opportunity to have these conversations. As hard as these conversations are to even think about having, this is the time when real strong men step up and do what's right and not what's convenient. So thank you very much. And I look forward to Monday when you do your thing with the CRBC, CBC, and the Cincinnati Regional Chamber. Thank you very much, and I appreciate that.
Absolutely, Steve. And I want to add this. You've heard people say that it's important to give people their flowers while they're alive. For those of you in our community here locally and around the world, I want to give Steve his flowers for not just being one who succeeds by himself, but he's one that as he is climbing, he's opening up the doors, he's putting down the ladder so that others can climb into successful opportunities as well. There have been many people that have sat in the place that Steve is sitting in that haven't been door openers. Sometimes, Steve, the people who are blocking aren't always the people that look different than us. But I want to thank you for your foresight and your willingness to share the spotlight and to create access for others to walk through doors of opportunity. That's not something that people are doing all that often. I want to thank you for that.
No, the only thing I want to say is I never do anything by myself. I mean, it's the people, my team around me, it's my community, it's my fellow brothers and sisters in the business, fellow entrepreneurs. Nobody is in an isolated case where it's just you doing to become successful. There's a lot of people who's lifted me. There's a lot of people who's given me opportunities when the opportunity wasn't automatic. These corporations, my customers, they took chances over a period of years. No one lives in this life alone. And that's why I say not to be diverse is to your detriment, not to your benefit. And that's if you don't have it, you will live by yourself. And unfortunately, poor people work alone.
Right. I'll say something else too. Steve also introduced me to FC Cincinnati. We've all heard about FC Cincinnati. We've seen the success that they have achieved. But for the first time in my life, I had a chance to go to a professional soccer game and watch down there, almost on the field, Steve. I mean, the seats that you had us in, man, we were like one row off the field. I thought I was going to have to catch a couple balls. But talk about, Steve, I can tell you that as a newcomer to just watching the game, to see all of that beautiful diversity out there on the field and to see these fans just losing their minds over the support that they wanted to give to the team. Can you say just a little bit about that and why you even decided to become part of that?
Well, what we don't know here in Cincinnati is that soccer is the largest sports event in the world, not baseball, not football, but soccer. And the world has known this a whole lot longer than the USA. And it's an exciting, thrilling atmosphere. It's live. People are jumping. People are moving. Smoke is coming up. The bands are playing. It's just an atmosphere that, we typically, and you can look at the audience in the stands, we don't know it. We don't know that game, but the world knows the game. And FC Cincinnati brought the world to Cincinnati. And we really need to be thankful that we have that opportunity. We need to be thankful that we've got a winning team. And you got a winning team because you got a diverse team where they went out and they got their players from around the world and they brought them right here to Cincinnati. So it's a very unique opportunity. It's a very unique experience. And it's something that we all should continue to put our arms around and support the FC Cincinnati.
Community, I want to leave this with you, then I'm going to have Steve even close out with the final words. But in this time that we're living in, where it feels as though we should be pessimistic and that it feels like so much loss is happening around us, at a time when we're hearing from the media that we are divided, and you can almost be discouraged about that. But you do need to know that there are men and women of all races, creeds, cultures who are putting on their superhero cape. And they're going out into the world and saying, no, we refuse to allow you to change our values and to take us back to a time that was not as respectful, where there wasn't as much opportunity for everyone. We will keep going forward because of people like Steve Hightower and Jeff Berding and many of you as well. I want you to know that in many ways, people are beginning to unify more. In other words, when you take shots at everybody, at the end of the day, they find their way almost through a back door to come together and to find common ground. We are looking forward to this conversation that we're going to have on April 1st with community leaders. But we're grateful for those of you that continue to be a part of diversity conversations week after week after week. We love you. You are making us relevant, and we're grateful for that. Steve, you got the final word.
Well, I just invite those business leaders to come out on Monday, April the 1st, and actually see and hear for themselves alternative views of why that DEI is what it is not what it appears to be. And but most importantly, that a community that comes together, stays together, builds together, and not having only a part of your community, part of the mainstream, part of what's growth here in Cincinnati is what's going to keep us from being that number one city that we're looking to be. So for those MBEs and minority companies that say, hey, this is over with, it's not over with. It's just
No.
the start. You get up and you do what you did yesterday. You just do it harder. You do it faster. You do it smarter. And those are the things that's going to keep you moving forward. And no one can stop you, because if it's not here, take it someplace else. And if not that someplace else, take it to the world, because the world is your playground. And if you know how to do business, somebody in this world will do business with you. Thank you very much, Eric.
You heard it here on Diversity Conversations from the billion-dollar business owner, Steve Hightower. Thank you all. Take care of each other, and we'll look forward to you joining us next week for another installment of Diversity Conversations. Thank you.